Today, we'll be comparing Java and PHP. It's always nice to hear something good or even bad about your favorite programming language. Java can be divided into two main areas of use, one big and one smaller. Let's call it 1.5. The first is enterprise development, meaning the automation of large enterprises. The second, which is gradually shrinking but still relevant, is Android app development. Although Kotlin is gradually taken over, Java is still holding its ground. Moreover, Kotlin is essentially built on top of Java, so Kotlin developers still need to understand Java, otherwise it will be difficult for them. It's similar to TypeScript developers needing to understand JavaScript, as it underpins TypeScript. Now let's talk about PHP. PHP has one primary area of use, web development. PHP syntax was initially designed for creating web pages, making it perfect for that purpose. Some simplest applications can be written in a single line of code and will work immediately on a website. In this respect, its competitors like Python and Ruby fall short because they require more effort to display something on the web. That's why many websites and the most popular CMSs, such as WordPress and a lot of other web software, are developed with PHP. Many ERP and CRM systems are written in PHP. For example, you can write automation for companies using PHP. Many small and medium-sized companies also use PHP. When it comes to large companies, Java and C# are more commonly used. If you end up on a large enterprise project using Java, you'll face an ocean of code written by generations of developers from around the world. It will take a lot of time to sift through all this code to fix a single line, but someone has to do it. On PHP, your application will be relatively small compared to Java, and you will likely be writing it from scratch. It will be an application for small and medium businesses, although sometimes for large companies, if it involves parts that are web-facing. With PHP, you will be doing everything, from the interface to the database and even server administration. This doesn't mean you won't do this with Java, but with Java, it will be more complicated. Lots of servers, complex integrations with software nobody has heard of. With PHP, everything will be more or less standard and straightforward. That's not to say that PHP projects can't have something unusual, but this happens less often than with Java, where every project is a mix of different components. Comparing Java and PHP developer salaries is tricky because PHP, unlike Java, has a low entry barrier. Writing a simple program in PHP is easy, and there is demand for it. Therefore, there are many entry-level jobs on the market, tweaking WordPress sites, fixing basic Discord bots, writing very simple programs. Especially on freelance platforms, there are plenty of such tasks. Due to the low entry barrier, you can start with very small salary. Java has a high entry barrier, so salaries start only when you become competent enough. A person who knows little about Java is not needed on a complex large project. Hence, Java salaries start at a higher level. With PHP, you can often find a job even without being a fully prepared specialist, and you will get paid, though not much. You can learn on such tasks. If you compare the salaries of specialists at the same level, they will be roughly the same. However, as I mentioned, PHP's starting salary is lower due to the low entry barrier. On the other hand, Java has a higher glass ceiling, the maximum possible salary. Java projects can be huge, and positions like architects can earn very high salaries. Such high salaries are rare in PHP, but if you are a regular mid-level developer, your salary will be more or less the same regardless of the language. The next point of comparison is syntax. It's hard to argue here. Java syntax is an ideal implementation of C-like syntax. Everything unnecessary has been removed, and everything necessary added, making the code perfectly readable. Yes, it may be a bit verbose, but this is offset by the fact that the code is unambiguous and readable in any context. PHP, compared to Java, has a more verbose syntax. For example, instead of the dot used in the C-like languages, PHP uses an arrow, making any PHP line longer. Additionally, all variables must start with a $sign, which creates noise in the code. Lots of these signs, and they get in the way. On the other hand, it's immediately clear where the variable is and where the key construction is. This lowers the entry barrier and simplifies the code for beginners. In terms of syntax, PHP is more bloated due to these symbols, but otherwise the syntax is similar. The same curly braces, the same control structures, similar function, method, and class definitions. Both languages have C-like syntax, so there are no major differences here. However, remember, Java is a language with strict static typing, while PHP has dynamic typing. In PHP, the variable type is determined at runtime, which on one hand simplifies writing code, but on the other creates problems when maintaining large projects. A statically typed language like Java strictly maintains the structure of the code. preventing programmers from doing whatever they want. Therefore, it's possible to maintain very large code bases in Java. Code in PHP, once it reaches a certain size, tends to fall apart, similar to Python, Ruby, and JavaScript. Problems with implicit relationships and breaking code chunks begin. It's often easier to throw it away and rewrite it from scratch. This doesn't happen with Java, but the development process is longer. So it's clear what each language is suitable for. Java is used in projects where reliability and longevity are crucial, such as in banks, telecommunications, and the oil industry. PHP is used where speed to market is key, just like Python, Ruby, and JavaScript. Which is better depends on your preferences. Do you like to work slowly and reliably so that the program runs for 20 years? Then Java is for you. Do you want to quickly write something and move on to the next project? Then PHP is your choice. It depends on your personality. Some people prefer one thing, others another. And you can't blame syntax or other features. It all depends on what you enjoy more. When we talk about frameworks, the situation gets interesting. Java is the language with the most frameworks in the world. It outpaces all other languages by a wide margin. Java is the only language that has not just a stack of frameworks, but stacks of frameworks. Imagine, there is one stack of frameworks, another stack of frameworks, and you can even assemble a third. This shows how much has been developed for Java. If anything in your project can be used by someone else, be assured that support for it already exists. There's a library or a framework that does it. Java is a very conservative and reliable language that hardly changes. As a result, a library written in the early 2000s easily works with modern code. No one discards these libraries. They continue to live on. If you need to connect to some ancient software that uses Java, there is definitely a library for it. Regarding frameworks, Java has an enormous number of them. The main stack includes more than 100 frameworks you can use. For comparison, in some languages, the number of frameworks is in the single digits. For example, Ruby has only one framework, Rails. Now about PHP. Among PHP, Python, and Ruby, PHP has the most developed web frameworks. The main industry standard is Laravel. Many applications are developed in Laravel, and it's perfect for small and medium-sized businesses. Many developers write on Laravel, and it's a valid framework. Small and medium websites are developed on it simply and clearly. PHP also has another powerful framework, Symfony. It operates at a higher level of complexity and supports more complex and large software. Of course, it doesn't make PHP an alternative to Java, but it's a serious step in that direction. If you need to develop more substantial software with more objects and integration in PHP, Symfony looks very serious. For medium and even large projects, PHP becomes a good choice. So, if you choose PHP, you have room to grow. Of course, you won't reach the level of Java or C#, but you can already develop serious applications. So, if you plan to grow as a developer, there is room for that growth. Let's talk about the future prospects of Java and PHP. Code written in Java is almost never discarded. It only accumulates. This is probably the only programming language where the code does not disappear over time, but grows. Therefore, I believe there is more code in Java now than in all other languages combined. In other languages, you write code, you throw it away, write it, throw it away. But in Java, it stays, clumps together into large chunks, and grows to enormous sizes. Java is essentially the language on which all major applications you've ever worked with are based. It's enough to say that all banks work in Java, so Java has great prospects. It cannot be displaced from the market. The fact that it's losing share in percentage terms simply means that other directions are also growing, but enterprise applications, as they were in Java, remain in Java. Yes, some new projects are created in C#, but for large businesses, Java is always chosen because everything will work on it. Now about PHP. It's quite a funny situation. Since its inception, everyone has been saying that PHP will die soon, yet about 80% of websites on the internet are written in PHP. PHP is the most popular language for developing CMSs. You might have heard of WordPress or Joomla. They use PHP. A huge number of websites run in this language. PHP is perfect for web development. It may seem a bit strange and unusual for other tasks, but for the web, it's the best choice. So I doubt anything bad will happen to PHP. The language is actively developing, new versions are becoming faster and more reliable. Yes, competitors are putting pressure on PHP, and its share may drop slightly, but it won't be a steep decline. Replacing WordPress sites with another CMS is almost impossible. Even if there are CMSs on Python, they are not as popular and well-known as CMSs on PHP. If a company works with a PHP CMS, it will always need PHP developers. The company will grow and need additional development. And guess what language they'll continue developing in? Of course, PHP. So no matter how much people say that PHP will die, nothing bad will ever happen to it.